Hold on to the feeling. Hello, everybody. Street light people. Oh, I am. I got a little distracted, and I am just getting set up and trying to figure out where I left my medicine cards. Oh no. All right, so everybody, welcome. This is Patrick, and I am just getting set up. I got distracted. I was watching cartoons, and so, and I actually misplaced my medicine cards. Okay, I'm going to take you with me as I search my apartment, keeping my phone strategically aimed toward the ceiling so you can't see how messy my place is. How's that? So thank you everybody for joining me. I am Patrick. I will be your reader for the night, and I am not sure what I did with my medicine cards. So thank you for your perseverance as I figure this out. There they are. Woohoo! We have victory. All right. Thank you guys. Sorry about that. It was an adventure. Thank you for bearing with me as I have a backpack that has, like, I swear, dozens of pockets in it, and I think that some of them are like little black holes, little portals to other dimensions, because I put stuff in there, and it just occurred to me, yes, it's kind of, I guess, like my purse. And so my medicine cards were hiding deep in the depths of my backpack, but we are good now. How are ya? Thank you for joining me. If you haven't been here before, what we are doing, once a week I do a mini medicine card reading session. And so, and I'm just kind of still getting set up as I'm talking. Just lighting some sage so I can smudge my cards, which had decided to go walkabout on me. Had to find them. And so what we're doing is I will pull 3 cards. Oh, you need more smudge than that. I will pull 3 cards, and your job is to choose a number between 1 and 3. And then I will go through the cards one at a time, and whatever card you choose, whatever number you choose, the card related to that number is your message for the week. And that way, starting off at the beginning of the week, you get a little guidance, and the card tonight. I apologize for coming in late, coming in distracted, having to take you on the adventure of finding where I left my medicine cards. but we are good now. So, like I was saying, this is the deck that I use. It's called the Medicine Card deck. It was created a long, long time ago by Jamie Sams and David Carson. And I have had a deck of these cards since the 80s, since college. And this is not the original deck that I had, but you can tell it's kind of well loved. Anyway, so the medicine cards, similar to like a tarot deck or doing a tarot reading, these, instead of using the archetypes and the arcana and all that, each card has a different animal spirit guide on it, different totem animals. And so depending on who shows up, it kind of tells you who is volunteering to help and what their message is, what guidance they have for you for this coming week. All right. So, as I was saying, I am going to shuffle the cards and then pull 3 cards. And your part of it is to choose a number between 1 and 3. Or you can choose 2 numbers, or you can choose all 3 numbers. Because it is an abundant universe, there are no rules, only guidelines. So, I'm going to shuffle them up a little bit more. And if you're new here, thank you for joining. I hope you enjoy this. And for those who watch me every week or a lot, thank you so much for your tenacity and perseverance. And I really appreciate it. This is one of the highlights of my week. I always look forward to this so much. And it's just, I love doing it. So there. And it's funny because at the beginning of the pandemic, I was so afraid of doing live videos and such. And now I'm doing 2 of them a week. So if you like this one, you can try my Wednesday nights at 7. I do another live video. I do a sacred pipe ceremony. Kind of like a little prayer circle, just creating a safe and sacred space for us to join our energies and intentions together, to hold space and pray and set intentions for a better world, a better humanity, and for ourselves. So check that out, 7 o'clock Pacific time, Wednesday nights, if you're interested. And I do this every Monday at 7:30. And if you enjoy this, I'm going to say at the beginning instead of the end, check me out on my website at perchingwolfstudios.net. If you would like a full reading for yourself, where I can actually pull a whole spread of cards just for you and get the personal meanings and messages from the animal, your own animal spirit guides. And I also have other things on my website, other shamanic services I offer, because this has been one heck of a year. Unprecedented, crazy, confusing, and we all need help. We're here to support each other, and this is now my full-time job, and I am here to support you through all the craziness, whatever I can do, if it's a reading to help you find your guidance, just to know what the next step is, or just to know that you're in the right place at the right time, or to do soul retrievals to bring back those portions of your soul or your psyche that got disconnected because of trauma, especially this traumatic year. I am here to support you. I am here to empower you. So that is my joy, and it's my job. So it's mutually beneficent. So anyway, enough about that. I'm going to give them one more. All right. All right. So 1, 2, 3. All right. This is funny because some of these I was just talking to someone about. Okay. So 3 cards. So choose a number between 1 and 3, or 2 numbers, or all 3 of them. Whatever feels right to you. So, if 1 is your number, if 1 is the number you chose, your card for the week is the Swan. Swan, in a word, is about surrender. That has been coming up time and time and time again lately. The medicine of Swan is really kind of encapsulated in the story of the ugly duckling. If that's your card, chances are, well, if you're watching this, chances are too that you've never really fit in, always stuck out, always felt like the odd one out. Others didn't really understand you. The ugly duckling, because it was literally a swan that was raised by ducks. And so this card is to remind you that you are in the world, but not of the world. You are a swan being raised by ducks. There is no, how do I put this? The whole point of our existence here is to realize our full potential, our authenticity and pure nature. And when you're a swan living among the ducks, there is no way that you can fit into that box of expectations, of rules, whatever it is. So, number 1, it's not your fault that you haven't fit in. It's not your fault that you were teased, or people thought you were weird, or you were made to believe that you were weird and worthless and didn't belong, because there is nothing further from the truth. If Swan is your card, you came here for a bigger purpose than most people are aware of. You could think of the ducks as kind of the run-of-the-mill, routine, mundane world where everyone is in that little tunnel vision of routine. They don't think there's anything more than what they see, or if they do, it's some deity way off someplace. But you know better than that. And you came here to, in your expression, it's not a combative thing. It's not to create conflict, to bash down the walls and to break open the doors. It's just to be who you are, and by being that beautiful expression of yourself, that angelic being of light and love, those walls and what am I trying to say? Those walls and things that hold us in, they disappear just by your grace of being in the world. You make those things disappear. You help people to see beyond those invisible fences that they have, to realize that there's something more beyond their own front yard that they can be, that there's a lot more freedom, there's a lot more existence, there's a lot more potential to be more than what they have been taught. And so you do that by, not by, I was just using this phrase, hold on one second, I'm going to turn on another light because it's kind of dark here. That's better. Okay. So, I don't know anyone who sees a swan and isn't like, oh my God, it's a swan, right? Just their presence inspires people with the beauty and the grace, and they're just amazing, like almost otherworldly. And that is why you've had a hard time in your life. That is why you're probably kind of cast aside or teased or made fun of. But those things that make you stand out from the crowd are actually your superpower. That's actually the differences that you are bringing into this world to help awaken this world. And so, rather than bashing in all the doors and busting through all the walls, just by attaining that authenticity, that purity of light and love that you are, you, how do I put it? You just, those boundaries that people think are there just disappear because you inspire them to something more, just like a swan inspires, oh my God, that's such a graceful bird, that's such a graceful animal. It's like this angelic being. Where the heck did they come from? You know, that's what you were meant to do. And it's those trials, and I'm speaking as an ugly duckling now, it's those trials and challenges that arose in our childhood that made us more aware of ourselves, that made us do more self-explorations, like introspection, trying to figure out who we really were. That helps us to evolve into the swan that we were meant to be. You were meant to be seen. You were meant to be inspiring. And along with that goes the whole point that who you are in your essence, beyond everything else, you are divine light and love. And it's surrendering to that path, knowing that everything in your path serves a purpose, and everything serves a purpose of getting you closer to this full expression. Let's see. And so you are already light and love. You don't have to achieve that. You don't have to make yourself worthy of it. You don't have to deserve it. It's who you are. And so it's, rather than fighting to become something we're supposed to become, it's about surrendering to who you already are. You are already divine. You are already high frequency. You raise your frequency by surrendering into who you already are, not by holding on and trying to raise your frequency by fighting and fighting and fighting. It's almost like a falling back, surrendering. Like if you've ever sat and watched a waterfalls for a while, and you're watching this water and the power and the energy that comes from a waterfall, then to realize that that water isn't, there's no effort on the part of the water. The water is just falling. The water is surrendering to the path of least resistance, is surrendering to gravity. And so by surrendering to that, it's like this thunderous energy and power that comes from it. In the same way, it's by surrendering to who we already are, rather than trying to put on more images, put on more skills, put on more lessons. We are trying to uncover all of that, to find the swan underneath it. In the cards, in the book with the cards, there's a story about Swan, and it was that, you know, Swan as a swanling, not sure if that's the correct term or not, but as a young Swan was swimming out into the pond, into his pond, and he saw Dragonfly hovering over the water. And Dragonfly is the master of illusion. And so Swan was like, well, what are you doing? And Dragonfly asked, are you ready to fulfill, your destiny? And the young Swan was like, yes. And Dragonfly was like, this means that you must accept Creator's path and guidance, no matter what it looks like or where it takes you. And the young Swan was like, yes, I want to become all that I can be. I came here for a purpose, and I want to be that magnificent being. And so Dragonfly spun his legs and his feet, buzzed his wings, creating a little whirlpool in the pond. And Swan swam right into this whirlpool. Shoop. And he disappeared from sight. A little while later, Dragonfly was buzzing across the pond when he saw Swan bob up to the surface of the pond. Full, like just beautiful, radiant, white, snow white swan. And Dragonfly was like, holy crap, what happened to you? And Swan was like, I did just as you said. I surrendered to my path. I took everything that happened, everything that fell into my path was an opportunity for growth. And I used every single one of those to just continue to flow and to surrender to who I was already. And this is what resulted. So it's about seeing your life with purpose, knowing that, again, and I keep saying this over and over, I keep trying to find a different way of saying it, because I'm sure it gets, I'm just repeating myself, but you are divine. You are indestructible. You are immortal. You are a piece of God, of Creator, of Goddess. There is nothing that can happen to you in this life or any other life that is stronger or more powerful than you. And so when you live from purpose, realizing that you chose to come into this life, then you know that everything that happens to you, everything that pops up in front of you, is there for a purpose. It's not that, well, everything happens for a reason. Okay, I guess I'm not supposed to know. Suck it up, move along. I'm not talking from that point of view where people use that as an excuse not to grow, or an excuse to like tell people like, oh, that's your own fault or whatever. A friend of mine has a podcast about it's kind of the life of and the teachings of Wayne Dyer. And she interviews a number of different people who knew him or who were associated with him. And I was listening one time. One of the ones that really stuck with me was this man. I can't remember his name. I don't remember exactly the details. But he ended up going to prison. It was something for it was like financial fraud or something like that. Something that at first he just kind of blew it off. It's like, oh, it's not a big deal. I'm not really doing anything wrong. It was one of those things that gradually escalated until at this point when the FBI were after him or whatever, he realized what he had done, and he ended up going to prison for years. And after it was like a really hard, challenging time for him. And I believe it was after he got out, he was trying to figure out what happened, why this happened to him. And something in him said, act as though you chose this. So he was able to act as though he had chosen that painful, I mean, he lost his wife, his home, everything. And it ruined his reputation. It ruined his self-esteem. He had considered suicide a number of times. And as he got out and he was trying to figure out what he was going to do with his life, it was like those words came to him. Act as though you chose this. Because if you chose this, you chose it from the point of view of coming into this life knowing that you had this challenge, knowing that you could get through it, knowing that on the other side of this challenge was a brighter, stronger future, a brighter, stronger you with more courage, more confidence, whatever. And so whatever those challenges, living your life as though it's a friendly universe, that the universe is on your side, that we are all part, it's a non-dual universe. Everything is part of the same energy. There's only one source of well-being. There aren't two sources, one of well-being and one of not well-being. It's not good versus evil. Everything, it's either open to that source of well-being or closed off. And so when we open, when we surrender, realizing that we are divine beings here for a purpose, that the universe is friendly and that everything that happens to us happens with a purpose, and that purpose being to realize our own strength and to use those challenges to propel us forward into a greater expression of ourselves. That is the way of Swan. It's that surrendering. Okay, I don't know what the reason is for this, but I do know there's a reason. I know the universe has my back. Whatever this is, I am greater than it. I'm going to flow, I'm going to surrender, and I will come out the other side. It's very Tao, very like Taoism. The Taoism is, in case you don't know, it's an Eastern philosophy, kind of like Zen, but Zen is Japanese, Taoism is Chinese, and there's the Tao Te Ching written by Lao Tzu, and it's all about, it's translated as the way of life, the Tao Te Ching. The Tao is considered the way, and it's considered the watercourse way, meaning the way of least resistance. And okay, that's where that's coming in. I'm just trying, I never know what I'm going to talk about or how it's going to come across or what different aspects of the animals are going to come out. And I was getting, just a couple days ago, this Taoist story was popping into my head. I'm like, well, that's interesting. I wonder when that's going to come out. Guess what? It's here now. So it's really about working with nature, with the natural forces rather than fighting them, and finding that fulfillment through surrender, through taking the path of least resistance. So, for instance, there is a story about this man, and they had a horse who helped them get to market and back and did all the heavy lifting. And one day there was a hole in the fence and the horse ran away. And so all the man's neighbors came up, "Oh, that's so bad. That's such bad news. I'm so sorry. That is so bad." And the man said, "We'll see." The next day, that horse came back, and he brought with him an entire herd of horses. And so because of that loss, they all of a sudden found themselves with all these horses. They were set up financially. They could sell horses. They had more than enough to do the work around the farm, all of that. And so all the neighbors came around and said, "Oh, that's so great. I'm so happy for you. That's so good. That's great news." And the man was like, "We'll see." And so the next day, his son was out trying to break the horses. I hate that word. But he was riding one of the new horses, trying to tame it, and the horse threw him, and his son broke his leg. And all the neighbors came around and said, "Oh, that is such bad news. I'm so sorry. That is really bad." And the old man was like, "We'll see." The next day, the army came to the man's farm looking for recruits for the army. And because his son had a freshly broken leg, he couldn't go with the army. So he was saved from having to go fight in the war. When the neighbors heard that, they all came around. "That is such great news. I'm so happy for you. That is good." And the old man is like, "We'll see." And so it keeps going. It's like everything that happens leads to something else. Everything is part of a process. It's cyclical. It's not, this is good and this is bad. And so it's like just going with the flow, knowing that everything that happens, number one, there's a reason behind it. There's a purpose. And it's not a purpose that we're not supposed to know. It's not like, well, God did this for a reason. I'll never know what it is, but I'm going to have to just suck it up and offer it to the poor souls in purgatory or whatever. I was raised Catholic. But it's like, okay, there's a purpose to this. I might not know it now, but someday I will look back and realize the purpose of this. This wouldn't be happening if I didn't have the power to get through it. So I'm going to surrender. I'm going to follow my guidance. When the challenge comes up, it's not time to armor up and battle through. It's time to surrender and connect, align with Spirit, and open up for that guidance to help you through whatever it is. Because with our ego minds, our ego selves, we cannot get through those kind of things. Or we can, but rather than making us stronger, it's going to drain us, take away from us. And so by aligning with Spirit, realizing that there's a purpose, that this is Spirit-driven, then Spirit is the one I need to connect to and allow that to pull me through. I am just curious if there's anybody on here, because I haven't seen anybody say hi or anything. So I might just be talking to myself, but that is okay. So anyway, so Swan, number one, if that was your card, everything is as it is supposed to be right here, right now. You are in the right place. Oh, hey, Josh, thank you. Phew. Okay, I'm not just talking to myself. Swan is talking about surrendering. You came here with a purpose. You came here to outshine the expectations of everybody else. Hey, Linnea, thank you. You're here to be seen. You're here to set an example. You are here to lead by example, through inspiration, to not just bash down the walls, but to display the fact that those walls do not exist in the first place, that those walls are illusions and fulfilling prophecies. So be who you came here to be. Be your authentic self. Don't worry, like, take strength from all those things you did in your past, all the things that made you stand out, and accept those as your strengths, as your talents. You know, it seems like the last few weeks at least, the messages coming through have all been basically geek out. Whatever your flavor of geekdom is, geek out. Celebrate it, savor it, let it show, because that is passion. That is what the world needs, is more people who are impassioned, who live from their joy, who follow their bliss. And so just geek out and be visible. You don't have to go stand on a soapbox and wave your hands to get people's attention. Just be who you are. Go about your business. And by doing that, people just, you don't have to put yourself on display, but just live your life. And by living your life, people will see you and be inspired by you. And like, wow, what does that person know that I don't? What little magic do they have? How do they look at life? And you'll find people coming, being inspired and being drawn to you to find out what you know or how you live your life. So it's like, just do. You do you, and that's all you have to worry about. Okay, so that is number 1. That is the swan. Anything else, swan? Don't be afraid to outshine others. It's not a competition. Don't compare yourself to others. And just let your light shine. That's why you're here. And the more of us that radiate that light and that love, the better off the world is. So live your passion, follow your bliss. All right? Okay, number 2. If 2 is your number, you got turkey. Turkey. A lot of people are like, oh God, turkey. Turkey is actually a very powerful medicine. Turkey is known as the giveaway bird. Just like, whether they're true or not, the stories of the first Thanksgiving, when the native peoples gave the newcomers turkeys to eat because they were starving, that was in place long before the colonies came, because it's akin to, these days, if someone moves into a new house, you give them bread and wine, right, to kind of symbolize, may you never hunger and may you never thirst, and salt, so that they're always abundant. I believe that's what the salt stands for. But turkey is that bird. It's like, turkey is kind of an embodiment of Mother Earth herself. Turkey takes care of others by taking care of herself. She has so much meat that she can feed numerous people. And so the healthier she is, the healthier the people that she feeds, right? And the native people realized this, so they would go out of their way to make sure that turkey had enough shelter, enough room to roost safely, enough food, all of that, in order to take care of her so that she could take care of them. It's that circle of life, that infinity loop where one feeds into the other. And the healthier turkey was, the healthier the people were. And they recognized that. There was no exploitation, no manipulation. It was recognizing her as kin, as one of their ancestors, as part of the earth, feeding and caring for them. And so they in turn reciprocated that, caring for Turkey and making sure that she was taken care of. So when Turkey comes up, the question is, and like when I pull these, I always turn them right side up, whichever way they came out. But if Turkey, in a reading, if Turkey comes up reversed, upside down, it's usually a sign that the person is being a martyr. It's that giveaway, but they're giving away more than they can afford to give away. You know, you're not meant to give away more than you can afford. This world is based on mutual benefit, on cooperation, and scientists are even starting to come to that realization in nature. You know, we were raised on this idea of you know, only the strongest survive and the survival of the fittest, that life was a competition and that all these species were fighting against each other, trying to find their niche. And that is not how it works. And scientists are actually starting to recognize that, to see that for there to be harmony in nature, all the species work together. A predator can't afford to eat all of its prey, otherwise it's going to starve, right? So there's a balance. And trees even, I heard that trees, if there's a tree that is sick in the forest, the other trees, through the root system and such, will give some of their energy and nourishment to the sick tree to help it stay healthy. Everything is connected. We're all part of that same energy. And so we can't exploit, we can't manipulate others, or we can't manipulate energy for our own uses at the expense of someone else. There always has to be, it's always for the highest good of everyone involved. Now you might say, but they're killing Turkey. Like I said, it's a dance. Humans have a longer lifetime than the turkeys do. And I say this as an animal communicator, as someone who has been basically a death doula for animals, that animals are not as attached to their physical forms as humans are. They know they're coming in for a purpose, for a short time, to experience that time as that creature. And when they die, like, even if so, well, I'm trying to make sure I'm not going off on too many. Forgot about. Okay, so when you see one of those National Geographic specials, you know, and the lion is chasing down the antelope. I'm gonna try to shift my camera. There we go. If you're watching those, and I very rarely watch those because I have a hard time with it. But like, there was one in particular, I remember, the lion chasing down an antelope. And when the animal is caught, you can actually see you can see the place, the time when the spirit of the animal leaves. The animal doesn't stick around to feel itself being killed and eaten. The spirit of the animal goes away. It's the same kind of thing as when we talk in shamanism about experiencing soul loss. When we have a trauma, part of ourself, like if you're in an accident and you kind of go into shock, you know, part of your psyche goes somewhere else to protect itself so that you don't experience the full brunt of the accident. The same is true, or more so true, for animals, because they are not as attached to their physical being. They're not as attached to their identity as that being. And so like that with the antelope and the lion, you could see the place where the spirit of the antelope left. All that was left was the body. And what was interesting about that memory of mine is that in that thing, somehow the antelope got away from the lion. I don't know if the lion got distracted and went off some other way. I don't remember that part of it. But there was this antelope. And you could tell it ran off and then it just stopped. And it just stood there. And you could tell, like, the pilot light was on, but nobody was home. And it just stood there in shock, literally in shock, for a short time. And then you could see just as clearly as the time when the antelope spirit left, you could see when that spirit came back in. It was like, oh, okay, my body is safe. I get to live longer. And that spirit popped in, and that antelope just took off. So life is a dance of consciousness, and it's not, we don't thrive at the expense of others. It's a dance, it's a mutual benefit. And so even though we eat turkey, I have to be careful not to go in certain directions because I'll be talking for hours. But the animals, such as turkeys, like nowadays we have the domestic turkeys, we have domestic cattle, etc. And there is actually kind of an agreement between us and the livestock, that, agreement made, just like the agreements we made with all the tribes that we welched on, that we never fulfilled. We have a similar treaty with these domestic animals that for our mutual benefit, they will continue to feed us if we continue to take care of them. And like I said, we've kind of reneged and fallen short on our side of that bargain. But I was in an animal communication class one time, or was it a shamanic? I don't remember, but I was in a class one time, and this issue came up. And so we, as a group, we journeyed to the spirit of the cow, like the diva, I'm just trying to make sure I can pull myself back through all these different threads, through all these different tangents. But we journeyed to meet the spirit of the species of the cow to see what we could do to help, because we were all appalled at the way that the animals were being slaughtered, etc. And the cow was like, this might be kind of controversial, and take it with a grain of salt. This was my experience, and a group of us together, we all got the same information, that the cow actually feels fulfilled to be eaten. That's its bargain with us. That's what it came here to do. But we still need to improve our ways of relating to the cow. We need to be more humane and make sure that their needs are met. Because the healthier, just like I said with turkey, the healthier the animal, the healthier we are. And so we need to re-examine our relationship with nature, especially those species that we depend on for our nourishment, for our maintaining these physical forms. We have to change that relationship and to see it in a greater capacity. But so turkey, the spirit of turkey, knew its place. And when I say that, it sounds like, oh, they're below us, and I don't mean that, because we're all related. Like they say in dang it, now I can't remember how to say that. I'm on the spot. Anyway, all my relations, everything is related to us. All of nature is related to us. There's no greater or lesser. Turkey is our sister, our brother, our mother. She is part of Mother Earth, and she wants us to be to the highest degree. So, okay. I need to back off some of those tangents. I'm so sorry. So, basically, after all of that stuff, Turkey is saying, fill your own pitcher before you try to fill someone else's cup. You have to take care of yourself first, like the airline thing about make sure you have oxygen first before giving it to someone else. You can't help someone else if you're running on empty. And what you find is that when you do that, when you make sure your pitcher is full, your pitcher eventually will be running over. You won't be able to contain the love and the light that comes through you, and it will just spill over into other people's lives and help them because you're being who you are. You're raising the vibration, which raises the vibration of everyone and everything around you. So take care of yourself first. If there's some place that someone is taking more than you can give, just as a sign to back off. Call on Turkey to ask for help. How do I draw the limits? How do I nurture myself so that I have enough to give others without crippling myself? You know. Okay, that was kind of a merry jaunt all over the place. I apologize for that, or maybe that's what needed to be said. So I need to remember to stop apologizing for myself. I'm just saying what's coming through me. So anyway, Turkey, number 2, take care of yourself. No one is greater than you. No one deserves your love more than you. And the more love you give to yourself, the more love overflows from you to give other people. It becomes a natural give and take. It's not forced. It's not at your expense. It is for the mutual benefit of both parties. Okay. Now, number 3. If 3 was your number, we got our old friend Coyote. Coyote is the trickster. Coyote, I have quite a bit of coyote medicine. Coyote shows up in my life quite a bit. And Coyote is the trickster. Coyote comes along to remind us to not take life, to not take ourselves so seriously. When Coyote comes along, it's time to play. And he might nip at your heels if you're being too serious, if you're too much in your ego or your mind and not seeing the whole picture. He might come along and nip at your feet. But his nipping is to get you to play. It's not mean-spirited. It's not to knock you down and throw you in the mud. It's to get your attention, to shift your focus, because usually you're probably in that hamster wheel routine, hyper-focused on what's ahead of you rather than seeing the wider picture of possibilities around you. So Coyote comes to knock you down, so you're like, whoa, oh, when did those people get here? You know, kind of like, I just had a flash of that movie, The Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner and James Earl Jones. And they had, that's where the "if you build it, they will come" thing came from. And Kevin Costner had to, he was guided, the spirits told him to build a baseball field in the middle of his cornfield. And it was probably going to bankrupt him. It didn't make any sense. But once he did, these spirits of old baseball players, like from the 30s and 40s and stuff, started showing up to play ball games in his baseball field. And not everyone could see him. And so his brother-in-law was trying to talk him into selling the farm because he just, took down all his cornfields. He had no way of making money. And meanwhile, he's coming to talk to him, and the ball players are all right there, and he can't see them. And then something happens where their little girl starts to choke on a hot dog, and they have to have someone rescue her, do the Heimlich, and that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden, the brother-in-law looks up and is like, "Hey, when did all those ball players get here?" That's the kind of coyote. It's like, get our attention so we see who's actually been there the whole time. It's like we're so focused on, being 3 or 4 moves ahead that we don't see what's going on around us. So it's to help widen that scope. Also, I just had a client of mine the other day that we were talking about coyote medicine, and she kept getting, and so this will put, like, a lot of people don't like coyote because they think he's out to get them. He's out there to trick them and to make them, like, to shame them or to humble them. And I mean, it kind of is to humble you, but that's not the case. Coyote is not mean-spirited. And those who say that they're acting under, coyote medicine, and those people that go around purposely pushing people's buttons and trying to get people upset so that they see their foibles or whatever, that is not coyote medicine. That might be coyote medicine, but that is an unbalanced coyote medicine. That is not how coyote works. And so getting back to my client, she had done a shamanic journey, and among a few other things, she kept getting this image of Richard Simmons. And so we were talking about different things, trying to figure out the symbology, and we journeyed to see what was at the heart of everything. And she's someone who has struggled with coyote medicine because she didn't want to be mean, but she knew that she had coyote medicine. And so she always kind of suppressed it because she was afraid of it. And she didn't want to hurt people. She didn't want to get people mad at her. And then, like, when we were talking, it occurred to me, Richard Simmons is like the perfect example of coyote medicine. Here's this guy who, I mean, to some people's eyes makes a fool of himself, but he's so exuberant and passionate about what he's doing. He's so joyful about it, so animated. He inspires people to dance and to exercise, and they're having fun doing it. And as a result, they end up losing weight, getting in better shape. But he's like, that's the trickery. He tricks them into doing what's best for themselves. He tricks them into having fun while they're taking care of themselves. That is coyote medicine. It's not about pushing the other people down to see how lowly they are. It's about tricking people into taking care of themselves. There's this really awesome woman. My mind can't, as soon as I say something, a couple of times tonight, it's just gone, phew. Gosh, what is her name now? She does astrology. She does a whole bunch of other spiritual modalities. And, but her main thing is coyote medicine. She actually does a thing she calls the coyote. Gosh darn it, my head is just not. It's like the Coyote International News Network or something like that. And so she is all about coyote medicine and the playfulness of it. And she talks about Coyote isn't here to put us in a cage. Coyote comes along to help us see that we have the key to the lock in the cage. It's kind of like, it's like the devil card in the tarot, where there's these people that are chained to a stone or whatever, and they're all afraid of the devil who's dancing above them, but that's just a distraction. They're letting their fear get in the way of seeing that there's no lock on the chains, that they're already free, and all they have to do is run the other way. So Coyote comes along to help us to see the chains that hold us, to see the bars that we put in our own way that box us in and keep us from expressing our full potential. Coyote comes along to help us laugh at ourselves and to remember not to take things too seriously. You know, one of my favorite quotes is from Oscar Wilde, and he said, "Life is too important to be taken seriously." I actually had a mentor one time, and I'm pretty well known for my laugh. If you've ever heard me out in public when I'm really laughing, I'm actually, when we go to different events and stuff, I'm kind of the rallying point, because everyone can hear me laughing all over the site or whatever. So they're always like, rally around the laugh. They always know where I am. And so this mentor is like, I love your laugh and, you know, how happy and optimistic you are. But he's like, not everything is funny. And I stopped for a moment, like just this really pregnant pause. And then I just left off with a belly laugh. And not to downplay the horrendous things going on, the pain and the suffering of the world, but from some point of view, everything is funny, because we are, like I said at the beginning, we are in the world, not of the world. We are indestructible spirits. We are angelic beings, divine light and love, who have been here since before time began and will be here way after it ends. And so from that point of view, the fact that we take things so seriously here is funny. To think that we could believe what's going on. I had one of my favorite aunts, when she died a number of years ago, I kept kind of checking in on her to see how she was doing. And the entire day, every time I checked in to see how she was doing, all I could hear was her laughing. She was laughing hysterically. And she kept saying things like, I can't believe that I believed that. And it was like, without the constraints of the physical world, she was just like, oh my God, that is so funny. I can't believe that I got snowed by all those beliefs and thoughts and judgments. And so it's like realizing who we really are. We end up putting on these masks and costumes and these physical forms that seem to be limited and confining, and we seem to not be as powerful as, well, we don't seem to be very powerful or worthy, but we are worthy and are more powerful than anything literally in the world. We are beyond the world. The world is here because of us, because we create it, because we're continuously recreating it. The world, the physical realm, is the result of the unseen realms from where we are from. It's thought and intention that creates the outside world. And so we are greater than anything we fear. We are greater than anything that can happen to us. And so that's what Coyote does. It just reminds us of our greatness. It comes up and like, why are you worried about that? You are so beyond that. And if you could, at that time, if you're going through something really strenuous, really challenging, and I just got to say that I know a lot of this can come off as sounding kind of callous and like, oh, psh, you got this, as if, you know, it's as easy as it is to say, right? I realize that there are conditions and situations in this world that are horrendous, that are heart-wrenching, that should not exist, that no one should have to handle. So I'm not saying that those things are not valid, that people are not suffering, that we shouldn't try to help people who are suffering. We're not just supposed to say, oh, that's your karma. Oh, you created your world. Deal with it. I am not saying that at all. But when you do pass from this world and are able to see your life from a higher perspective and to be able to see all the threads that went in to every little thing that you experienced, every little decision that you made, every little challenge that popped up, you will see how it all connects. And it wouldn't surprise me if you let out with a belly laugh, because you could see how funny it was that you took it all seriously. So I'm not, and I stumble over myself sometimes too, saying things because I want to make sure I'm not coming across as, you know, I've been accused of being a fluffy bunny, like only seeing the light of everything. But the reason I see the light in everything is because of the deep darkness that I've gone through. And I'm not trying to diminish the importance of other people's experiences or what's going on in the world. When things come up and we feel that that's not right, it is our duty to change it in whatever capacity we can, whether that's just going inward and changing that part of us that creates that reflection in our world. And that gets into a whole bigger subject I won't go into. I feel like sometimes everything I say is another can of worms. Can open, worms all over the floor. And I'm always trying to put the worms back in the can, but I hope you get from me that basically all the readings that I do, basically everything I do is about love, and realizing that love is the most powerful and actually the only thing present in the universe. Everything is love. And it's not, when we stand in love, it's not that we are in opposition to hate or in opposition to darkness or whatever. Love is the only thing that exists. And so it's about maintaining that, anchoring that reality of love and light, because there is nothing that opposes it. It is what is. And the hate and the fear are illusions. And that's our job coming into this life, is to be the presence of light and love, to heal that illusion of hate. Because people are convinced of that from lifetime after lifetime, not to mention the genetic information coming through their bloodline of, you got to watch out, you got to protect yourself. Not that people haven't experienced what they experience, and not that their feelings and their experiences are not valid, but there is a higher perspective to come in with love and compassion and to show them that the fear and the hate, there is no need for it anymore. We are at a time and a place where it's done. There is no need for hate. There is no need for fear. Every person deserves to know their wholeness in divine light. And when we discover that wholeness and we learn to love and accept ourselves, then we're not trying to gain power or things from other people. Again, we're then fulfilling nature and doing the cooperative thing, working for the mutual benefit of all beings. And we can help ourselves move forward and stronger, because we don't have to have our armor up. We don't have to have shields up all the time, because we know who we are. We know that nothing anyone says or does can threaten who we are. And so we can just be ourselves. Just imagine that world where everyone has permission to be themselves, to let go of those dark, muddy, sticky coverings of duty and responsibility. And God, it sounds like I'm being an anarchist now, but we are all part of that same source energy. So it's like we are an orchestra with the same conductor. The conductor, we're all watching the same conductor. We're all connected to that source energy. And so when we play our part with our hearts connected to that source, then everyone is playing their part and everyone plays in harmony, because we're coming from that same place. People, the human race is naturally good, is naturally divine. We are taught that we were born of sin, that we have to redeem ourselves, which is hopeless anyway, etc., etc. But the truth is that we are divine beings of light. We are the presence of God in this world, and the more people who awaken to that. And that's why we call it an awakening, because it's not discovering something we didn't know. It's waking up to remembering what is true. We've all taken that forgetful potion when we come into this world, and we forget who we are. So this is a process of awakening. And that's why our spirit animal guides come to help remind us of our true nature and our true being. So, all right, that got a little preachy. Sorry about that, but I hope that made sense. I hope that helps. I am here to empower you. I'm here to help you remember your true light, your true presence, to be the light and love you came here to be, unafraid, fearless, courageous. And when doing that, when you become that authentic, pure self, you have more than enough to share and to nurture and to help others. And because you can do that and you recognize the divine in others just as yourself, it all becomes play. Then it becomes, okay, how can we, this is a puzzle. How do we solve the puzzle? What do we get to do next? You know, like Einstein said, you can't solve a challenge with the same consciousness that created the problem. You have to, what's the word I'm looking for? You have to go beyond that consciousness. You have to expand that perspective, expand the view, in order to come up with the solution. And so every time there's a problem, it's like, okay, my world's going to get bigger now because I have to make room for a solution. So, okay. I hope my rambling made sense tonight, and I hope you got something out of it. I am going to post this onto my Facebook page, so you can watch it later on in the week. If you forget anything, forget what card you chose. If you need more guidance in the middle of the week, you can choose a different number and see which one you chose, which one comes up for you then. I'm also going to upload this to my YouTube channel, so feel free to check it out there and subscribe and like my videos. Tonight was kind of a weird one. It started off shaky and kind of I feel like I rambled a little bit more than I like to, but it's all good. And feel free to share. Feel free to invite your friends next time. And like I said earlier, I am here to help support you through these weird changing times, to help you find your empowerment, your true being. And so check out my website at perchinglowstudios.net. I can do a reading for you, specifically for you, all the cards, custom made just for you, personal messages from the animals to what you need to know at the time, or I have other shamanic services that I offer, and if there's anything I can do, let me know. It is my greatest joy to help and to support you and to help you find your own power. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. And if you haven't yet, check in on me at 7 o'clock on Wednesday for the Sacred Pipe Ceremony. And otherwise, I will see you back here again at 7:30 next Monday for 3 more cards. And I hope you enjoyed it. So until then, know that I love you, that I see you, and that I honor you. So have a wonderful, wonderful week. If you have any questions, let me know. I always love answering questions. Set up a session with me and we can discuss. We can find your power animal. We can do all kinds of things. So let me know. I love you and I will talk to you soon. In the meantime, go shining.